You're listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C show. Don't forget, if you're looking for a unique spice for your barbecue, chicken, steaks, burgers, chops, fish, pizza. Not that you're cooking pizza on a grill, but you never know. Don't forget Kenny Bear's Barbecue Rub. Check it out, www.southerngourmetspice.com. And make sure you tell them Billy C sent you. And you know what? Tell them that Billy C said 2 for 1. Mention Billy C and you get 2 for 1. So buy 2 bottles and only pay for 1. They love it when I make up these specials like that. Joining us right now, he's going to give us his 3 favorite fights of the week, break them down, and predictions. The one and only Daxx Khan. What's up, man?
I'm sweating. I was complaining about the warm weather. Then I was hoping that it didn't rain. Then the rain came, and then it just made it more humid. Now I'm thinking to myself, I need to go someplace way, way, way up north where there's still snow.
Well, I don't know. With the global warming, we're running out of places with snow. But it's funny. Today was where I am, and obviously I'm a couple hours north of you. It was hot and humid, miserable this morning, and then all of a sudden, right now, there's no humidity, and it's really pleasant out. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not complaining, not yet, but I'm sure I will later on as the summer gets older. But 3 fights this week you like. I know we got kind of a shortened schedule this week, and rather than go through all the boxing schedule roundup like you normally do, I wanted to get your 3 favorite fights of this week and your breakdowns. Who do you like, Dax?
All right, so this week we're going to break down, the 2 most significant cards of the week. One is going to be the card from the Barclays Center on Spike TV, the DeBella and Star Boxing Promotions card. The main event there is going to be Amir Khan versus Chris Algieri. And, of course, we're going to do the card over in the UK, which I've said several times, we talked about this off air, this is the best card without question across the whole country, the whole world this week, and that's the Matchroom Boxing card on Sky TV at the O2 Arena. And we're going to break down the Kell Brook versus Frankie Gavin fight, and we're also going to break down the Anthony Joshua and Kevin Kingpin Johnson bout.
Which I love both of those fights. So why don't you start off with the Kell Brook fight? Tell us what you think on that one.
The Kell Brook fight, one second here, the Kell Brook, you got me off guard here. I was going to break down the Khan fight first.
All right, go ahead. Break down the Khan fight first. That's even better.
All right. We had Amir Khan. It was the 2 division world champions, the former WBC, WBA Super World and Junior Welterweight, and the current WBC Silver Champion. Khan has been stopped 2 times, one by Bradis Prescott in 2008. He was kind of caught cold. And then Danny Garcia, in the 4th round, 2012, when Danny took over the light welterweight division, then to Lamont Peterson in Peterson's hometown. That was a split decision. That fight always bothered me, Bill, because Nelson Vasquez had it 115-110 for Khan. George Hill and Valerie Dorset had it 113-112 for Peterson. Khan was deducted a point in the 7th and the 12th for pushing. So you know what? If they still only had it a point for Peterson, what does that tell you about? That tells a story right there. Amir Khan definitely has been in there with the better quality of opposition. And he's also the better boxer all around, in my opinion. Khan's notable wins. He beat Dimitri Salita when Salita was undefeated. Paul McCloskey. He had a great fight with Marcos Maidana. In the last round, he kind of showed that his chin isn't all that shaky because he took an assault from Maidana that would have put most guys down. He beat Paul Malignaggi rather easily. And even the Zab Judah that was kind of past his best, he beat. Zab Judah past his best is still better than a lot of guys at that period in time. Carlos Molina, Luis Galazzo, Julio Diaz, Devin Alexander. And he has excellent footwork. He has great combinations. And Amir Khan has become a fighter. When you look at him now, he thinks. And Virgil Hill, I think, has changed Amir Khan a lot. Khan, he doesn't have thudding power or even overly impressive power at welterweight, but he has the type of power added with his speed that makes guys think and hesitate coming in on him at times. Speed is an asset for all fighters because if you have speed and movement, sometimes fighters will spend more time thinking about either A, how to come in at you and make sure you're there when they let a punch go, or B, they're going to say to themselves, if I let my hands go, is he going to be there? Amir Khan, too, is a more cautious fighter, not one unwilling to take chances, but he's not 100% offensive-minded like he used to be. Amir Khan, in my opinion, I always thought he looked a little too hard to impress the fans. And, now with Virgil Hill, it looks like he's getting the job done according to the game plan. And, Amir Khan, when he's on point, Billy C., I have to say this much. Just Amir Khan being Amir Khan, not, to sit there and kind of make fun of Chris Algieri when he said after the Pacquiao fight, what was it like? Manny was the best at being Manny Pacquiao. Amir Khan is an entertaining fighter, and everything Amir Khan does will sit there and make you want to see him again. The only thing that Amir Khan does now that I still see as a problem is he underestimates his opponents at times. That's why Julio Diaz was able to drop him in 2013. Diaz is a great fighter, but he's way past his best, and his glory days were at lightweight. Khan, he got up off the mat, he relaxed, and for the rest of the fight, he did exactly what he was supposed to do. He didn't get the stoppage because he didn't look for the stoppage, but he made sure he didn't get caught being reckless again. And like I said before, that is a big credit to his maturity, especially with Virgil Hunter. The only other thing I noticed about Khan lately I don't like is he can be more physical than he used to be. He needs to just box on the outside, move around, and do what he does best. Khan wants to make a statement because he wants the mega fights right now, but if he just follows his game plan, there's no need for Khan to make a statement because Amir Khan in there, throwing his combinations, moving around, doing what he's got to do is a statement in itself. Now, Chris Algieri, I have to agree with Larry Hazard. I don't see this being much of a fight. Algieri, not that I dislike him, but he was blown out by Manny Pacquiao. His best win is over Ruslan Provakinov. He took a beating. He showed a lot of heart getting off the mat. But you know what? That was also a very questionable decision. I think me and you spoke about that on the show, and we spoke about that off air. His best wins, aside from Ruslan Provakinov, have been over Jose Peralta, Ayew, and Emmanuel Taylor. He's a former WBO super lightweight champion, but you know what? He didn't last very long because the first time he stepped up to the elite level, he lost that title. And I also think that at times, Chris Algieri, like anybody I've ever seen transfer from kickboxing to boxing, they just don't seem to be able to make that full, complete transfer. For whatever reason, I don't know, but, maybe it's just because the rounds are different. And, he also jumped up in class too quickly. He fought too long at the Paramount Theater as a local attraction. That was great, making money. He packed the house, but they never raised his level of competition slowly to get him ready for these mega fights. John David Jackson in his corner, replacing Tim Lane, that's great. But a big mistake there is that Chris should have had at least a stay busy fight with John David Jackson there, so John David Jackson is able to decide during the fight, if Chris is not responding to his instructions, how they can work that out in the gym so Chris is more responsive. With Tim Lane, as Tim would say stuff in the corner, Chris never seemed to utilize it. Not that Tim Lane, not to be harsh on him, not to insult the guy, but he is definitely not a trainer at the world-class level. John David Jackson is. Unlike the Pacquiao fight, I think Chris Algieri is going to use his feet more, and he's going to know when to stand his ground, and his jab is going to be very effective, and he's going to have some decent combinations of his own. I just hope he doesn't overrate Amir Khan's lack of chin. I like Algieri's heart. We've seen it against Provakinov, and obviously, considering I can't even count how many times he got up off the floor against Manny Pacquiao. You got to have heart to get up that many times. If you didn't, he just stayed down. And if Chris would have stayed down after the third knockdown, I don't think anybody would have sat there and said much against him. But the only thing that I see wrong here when I mentioned Amir Khan's speed is Manny Pacquiao's speed looked like it baffled Chris Algieri at times. If you looked at Chris and Manny Pacquiao would leap in, Chris almost said to himself he didn't realize anybody could be that fast. Amir Khan is faster than Manny Pacquiao. Me personally, I will say he has the fastest hands pound for pound in the sport right now. And if Chris Algieri wasn't able to deal with Manny Pacquiao's speed, Amir Khan's speed is really going to dazzle him. It's going to be like taking something shiny and putting it in front of a baby, and Amir Khan is going to do exactly what he wants. My final decision on that is Amir Khan wins that unanimously. Even go out on a limb, if Chris Algieri lets himself become dazzled, I think Amir Khan may stop him, with Amir Khan knowing what happened to Ruslan Provakinov, knowing where he is, knowing that, you know what, I can't let this be close on the scorecards. So look for Amir Khan to shine that. is, like I said, looking for those big fights in the future.
Great breakdown. A couple of points I just want to make. First of all, I agree with you with the Khan fight against Marcos Maidana. It was so foolish of him to stand toe-to-toe at the end in that fight just to show everyone he's got a chin. I also agree with you with Virgil. He's changed Amir Khan. He's slowed him down a little, not his hand speed, just what he does in the ring. And I think you put it best that he seems to be thinking more in there. But I think it's more of he's letting things happen automatically versus thinking too much. I think he always was thinking, but he was overthinking. Now he's letting things just happen automatically, and it shows. As far as his hand speed, I agree with you there. I also believe he's way faster than Manny. I think what he does better than Manny Pacquiao, which will give Chris Algieri trouble, is I think he's better cutting the ring off. I think that Amir Khan can cut the ring off and control the action better than Manny. Manny chases people around. We see him bounce around and chase people all around the ring. He doesn't really cut off the ring like some of the ring generals do, like Amir Khan does now, and of course the guy who does it the best is Triple G. As far as Chris Algieri, I agree 100%. He went from Emmanuel Taylor, which was the toughest fight. I believe it was Emmanuel Taylor, the toughest fight of his career, to Prodagnikov, and then he goes from there to Manny Pacquiao to Amir Khan. I mean, clearly, this is a guy that didn't get a chance to get better. And one other thing I agree with you on is that everyone seems to look at Amir Khan as a fighter with a weak chin. I think Chris Algieri is thinking that as well. And I, too, am picking Amir Khan in this fight. But I do think he's going to stop him. I don't think it's going to go to the scorecards. I think Amir Khan is going to be able to cut the ring off, is going to be able to dominate with his hand speed. And I think Amir Khan punches a hell of a lot harder than people realize. So, yeah, I'm with you on that one, bro. I'm going with Amir Khan as well. Kell Brook next. Kell Brook, Frankie Gavin.
Yes, now Kell Brook. I'm sorry. Like you, I try and get my things in order, so I was really expecting to do that one at the top.
I'm sorry. You know what? Listen, you are doing it the way we actually talked originally. I threw you the curve. My favorite fight of the week is obviously Anthony Joshua against Kevin Johnson. We'll save that for last. But give us your thoughts on Kell Brook and Frankie Gavin.
All right, Kell Brook, undefeated. I'm a big fan of Kell Brook. I've told you that many times. People have heard me say it many times. I like this kid a lot. Kell Brook was looked at nothing, as a lot of people over here look at these European fighters as the Euro-level fighters, but you have some that stand out and that are better than that. A Triple G, you got an Amir Khan. A Kell Brook is another example. A guy you love, Lennox Lewis, was another example. The Klitschko's, another example. Kell Brook, in his first defense of his title against Jojo Dan, he looked spectacular. Sean Porter, I think he won by a wider margin than what it showed on the scorecards. He also has wins over Michael Jennings, Matthew Hatton. His chin is first rate because he fought Hector David Saldivia. I don't know if you know who he is, but you know what? He's one of these fighters from, I believe, Argentina that he hits really hard. He has about an 80% knockout ratio, and he has a solid chin. And Kell Brook, every time he hit Kell with some big monster shots, Kell was never phased. Kell Brook also beat Sinchenko rather easily. The things I like about Kell Brook inside the ring is he has a great jab. It's better than average. It's a powerful jab that's very accurate. It's not a knockout jab like, if you wanted to compare, jabs to like a Klitschko type guy, but it's a jab that stops guys in their tracks. And he has powerful combinations. He's not a shoe shine guy. When I say powerful combinations, I don't mean that every punch is thrown with power. What I mean is that he does not look for like that one hard shot and then sit there and throw constant, hope what lands. And then usually when guys do that, more of it hits the gloves than anything. Kell Brook is very determined to make sure he doesn't waste a lot of punches. He has no regard for what anybody out there is thinking he's going to do. He's all business inside, and he's very focused. One of the things I like about Brook, aside from what I've already mentioned, is his hook that comes off of a straight right to the side, and he does this jab first, and then he throws the straight afterwards, but sometimes he turns into this hook, Bill. I don't know if you've ever seen, exactly what I'm talking about. It's really weird. As the straight right's coming down, all of a sudden Kell would turn it into an hook, and it's hard, and he hurts a lot of guys with it. And even though it's only a 1-2 punch, I've seen so many guys not know what to do with it. He has good head movement. He has solid defense. There's not a lot of cons you can really say about Kell Brook at this point. Of course, there's still a lot more out there that, he needs to do before we can pick him apart. The only thing that I don't like about Kell is occasionally he leans back to avoid a shot rather than moving his head around. He doesn't hold his hands up high when an opponent comes in, so this way he doesn't risk getting caught by a sneaky shot or by a flurry. But considering how calm and relaxed Kell is inside the ring, I think he might know when it's time to worry about what a guy has to offer him, because he does feel guys out. So, it's hard for me to pick anything out about Kell Brook at this point in time that's negative. His opponent, Frankie Gavin, he's a good fighter. He's a former Commonwealth and BBBFC champion. He's got some good wins over former world champion Junior Witter. He beat Bradley Skeet when Bradley was undefeated. He has a win over Denton Vessel. He throws some nice body shots. In fact, that's Gavin's most impressive shot, when he counters to the body as an opponent's coming in. He has this jab uppercut hook that pauses them. It's not the type of a punch that will drop a fighter in terms of how a Triple G will, but it does make guys step back and think before they want to come back in. The cons about Gavin is sometimes he waits his opponents to bring the fight to him, and when he does that, he keeps his hands down, and he'll walk straight back at times, even if a guy isn't rushing in, but if they just walk towards him slowly. Another bad habit is that he gets reckless with his punches. He looks for that big power shot, and when he does that, he leaves himself wide open, and he's really not a power puncher. Leonard Bundu, who's no power puncher, good thing for Frankie Gavin, but he's a great technical fighter, and Gavin had issues all night long with Bundu because Bundu kind of dazzled him at times. Gavin's hooks were the only thing that kept Bundu honest and kept Bundu from coming in there. But Bundu, when he did let his hands go, he outboxed Gavin, because Gavin really is not a great boxer. He's really more of a slugger, if you ask me. This is not what I would call a showcase fight, but this is definitely not a fight that's going to give Kell Brook anything to worry about. I don't think Bradley Skeet has much to offer him. And when I looked at Frankie Gavin has much to offer him. When I looked at the Bradley Skeet fight again, I think Bradley Skeet would have beat him if Bradley didn't stand there and pose so much, looking for the right shot to open on him. Final prediction, Kell Brook, and I say Kell stops him rather early, and he's going to look better in this fight than he did against Jojo Dan.
Bradley Skeet was never the same after that fight, so I don't know what happened with that, but I agree with you. I, too, am picking Kell Brook. I think this is a big fight for him. I think he needs to make a statement in this fight, and he better not be taking Frankie Gavin lightly, because I think Frankie Gavin is a very good fighter. He's a solid fighter. He had a very good amateur career, and if Kell Brook takes him lightly, I could see an upset happening, although I'm picking Kell Brook, but I personally believe that Kell needs to make a statement in this fight. Now, finally, my favorite fight on the board this week is Anthony Joshua against Kevin Johnson, arguably the toughest test for the young heavyweight out of England is with Joshua. Kevin Johnson at one time, Dax, I really thought that this guy was going to be a champion. I just have lost everything on him. I think he possesses the talent. He does have the talent. He's big, he's strong, but he's got a big mouth. How's Anthony Joshua going to fare against Kevin Kingpin Johnson?
We all know the hype on Anthony Joshua, and I don't want to say it's hype. I want to say the kid definitely does have the goods in him. He's only 25 years old. He's 12-0, all 12 by knockouts. He's 6'6", and he already has a minor title. I believe this is for the WBC International Heavyweight belt. The pros on Anthony Joshua is, like I stated, he's big, he's strong, he has a solid jab, and he will use that jab to maintain his distance. In close, Joshua likes to work from top to bottom, and he looks to set his man up for a big punch on the ropes. He'll slightly take a step back and hopes that his man opens his hands enough after he lets that flurry go so he can land a big, strong shot to hurt him. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. One thing I noticed about Joshua, for some reason, after all the time he spent in the amateurs, whether or not they've worked on this in the gym afterwards, or whether or not this is something he's picked up, with the time he spent with Vladimir Klitschko, is he has several veteran moves that you would never expect somebody who spent that much time in the amateurs and only has 12 professional fights. The one thing is, when he goes back to the ropes, Joshua doesn't get pushed back to the ropes because he's very strong. But, he'll go back to the ropes, and one thing he does when he's back there is if his opponent starts getting a little bit overzealous, he does this type of Floyd Mayweather move where he brings his elbow out so he can step off the ropes, and his opponent has no way to reach in and connect on him. And he's a strong finisher, obviously because all of his fights have been by stoppage. He's shown improvement in every fight out, and the thing I like to say is smart by his team, even though a lot of people are down on him about it, is he faces these old veterans that know these tricks to survive. And Anthony Joshua learns these tricks from these old veterans that, you'll see in the fights, they catch him once in the move, they catch him twice, he realizes what they're doing, and he's never fooled by that trick again. The cons on Anthony Joshua is when he does throw those combinations like I spoke about as his opponents are on the ropes, he leaves himself open for a counter, much like a young Lennox Lewis used to do. So far, the opponents he's faced haven't been able to capitalize on it because of his power and his speed and his ability to assert his physical advantages. When he steps up and faces a fighter with more in the tank and more power, I can actually see Anthony Joshua getting caught with a counter, stunned, maybe even finished. We don't know how good his chin is yet. He's still learning as a professional. His team needs to fix these small issues before he steps up against guys like Shagayev, Glaskov, Pulov, or even Tarver, who would know exactly how to keep AJ thinking and outpoint him. Same thing, this is a guy over here that he's going to meet, Kevin Kingpin Johnson, who has defeated some good guys, Alex Leopold, Albert Sosnowski, Bruce Seldon, Robert Hawkins, Devin Vargas, Solomon Himondo. He's gone the distance every single time he's lost. Vitaly Klitschko, Derek Chisora, Tyson Fury, Christian Hammer, all good guys. And to be able to go the distance with all those guys, even in the loss, that tells you something. His strong point is survival. Kevin Johnson knows how to survive. He hasn't been able, if Vitaly Klitschko hasn't been able to stop him, at this point in time, you got to say to yourself, who can stop this guy? Beatable? Obviously. But to knock him out cold, not so sure. He has good stamina because when you see he goes in with these bigger guys, even ones that lean on him, he's able to not completely gas out. He's able to stay kind of active to the end. Johnson also knows how to do some subtle things inside the ring. Like he slightly shifts directions in the middle of going one way. He'll take a half step back and all of a sudden he's going the other way without even realizing it. He has a decent shoulder roll move. Another thing, referencing he does, like Floyd Mayweather with the shoulder roll. He doesn't have a Floyd Mayweather type shoulder roll, but something I've never seen before is Kevin Johnson actually can use his shoulder roll while walking back. Tyson Fury was baffled by this when they fought because Tyson would lean in with these big punches and Kevin would raise his shoulder, tuck it under his chin as he was coming back, and Tyson would just come up short. And it wasn't by chance because Kevin Kingpin Johnson did this more than one time. He actually did it against Derek Chisora. And the cons about Johnson, though, is his outpunch is low. His punch output is very low. When he is on the offensive, he's only going to throw combinations with 2 or maximum 3 shots, even when his opponent is standing there, able to be hit, and they're not offering anything back. Johnson likes to stalk his opponents, but he follows them when he does it. He doesn't cut off the ring at all. Tyson Fury had Kevin Johnson chasing him around the ring. If Tyson Fury can make somebody at 6'3", 50 pounds lighter than him, chase you around the ring looking like a novice, what does that say? So, Kevin Johnson, when it comes to his offensive abilities, they're limited. His offensive abilities, they're limited. I don't know if it's because he doesn't train hard. I don't know if he doesn't take it seriously. I don't even know if Kevin Johnson just comes in for the paydays knowing that he's going to be able to go the distance, and because he goes the distance, he's one of those guys that's always going to get called because he's always going to be either A, a fight that's not dangerous, or B, he's going to be a fight that somebody can look good just hitting him all night. I think Joshua will keep Johnson on the defensive all night, but he might get flustered by Johnson's tricks. He might not be able to finish Johnson, and if Johnson is able to frustrate the young Joshua who doesn't have that type of experience against that type of fighter, I can honestly say that, Joshua would lose on points. But my official pick is Joshua in a fight that's going to make him look very bad, and it's going to actually drop his stock later on, make him look very beatable, and not that not that, he's not as good as we think he is, just because Kevin Johnson is the wrong opponent for somebody with only 12 fights.
Great points about Kevin Johnson. He knows all the tricks, and he's a big guy, and he's got some hand speed. He does possess power. He knows how to go to distance. He knows how to survive. Everything you said, I agree with. My question, first of all, I think Anthony Joshua is the future of the heavyweight division. But the question is, can he go 10 rounds with a guy like Johnson? I think this is a big test for him. And should he be able to stop Johnson? Like you mentioned, no one has, some of those big guys, like you said, haven't been able to. I think that is going to be a feather in his cap. But it's going to be interesting to see if he does look bad, like you're predicting, because all of the reasons you give are all good ones. So I appreciate that. And you did a great job, as usual, with those fights, Dax. And listen, we got to take a break right now, but let me ask you a quick question before we go. What's your thoughts on 50 Cent filing for bankruptcy and walking away from the sport of boxing real quick? What do you think?
I think we spoke about this before. I think we knew that was going to happen. As always, and we've said this 1,000 times on the show, Bill, the sport of boxing is different from any other business. There's been so many very good businessmen that have failed in this sport because they don't realize exactly the difference between this and being a multimillionaire running, whether it be a Fortune 500 company or, whether or not you're just running a construction company. Boxing's a very tight-knit business, and if you don't know exactly how people in boxing work behind those closed doors when it comes to purse bids and contracts, you're basically going to sit there, no matter how many boardrooms you've been in, no matter how much money you're making, you're going to be like a novice on his first day on the job. Donald Trump wasn't able to do it. There's only been a handful, maybe 10 promoters in history that have ever been able to say they have controlled the sport. There's a lot of good promoters, but there's always these promoters that come and go. 50 Cent, he was a guy that came into the sport, I think, because him and Floyd Mayweather were good friends at the time, and he was under the impression that he was going to be able to get Floyd's backing power and star power, and he was going to be able to sign all these fighters. But on the other hand, if 50 Cent would have known a little more about the sport, he'd have said to himself, Floyd, you're the pound-for-pound top man in the game. You're making all this money, but, I'm looking at your stable here, and do I recognize any of you guys from Friday Night Fights?
Hey, Dax, listen, I got to take a break right now, and I appreciate your thoughts on that, and a great job, as usual, on your fight breakdowns, my man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, enjoy the fights, everybody.
We'll be right back.